Hello, dear friends. Today, let's dive into the intriguing story of the billionaire stopped by a homeless man from enjoying his luxurious meal. So, what's the truth behind this tale? Stay tuned to find out. And don't forget to support me so I can continue creating more amazing videos for you. It was a late, rainy night, and the city was wrapped in a cold, relentless downpour. The streets were wet and gleaming under the shimmering lights. And outside a high-end restaurant on a bustling street, the heavy rain drummed on every surface. Lights from buildings and cars reflected on the rain-soaked road, creating a beautiful yet lonely scene. Streams of cars moved steadily, their headlights cutting through the rain, leaving shimmering trails in the air. Raindrops pattered against windows and rooftops, blending with the distant hum of engines to form a melancholy melody that belonged to a city that never truly rested. Under a narrow awning, hidden in the shadows to avoid the chill of the rain, stood a man with a rugged, worn-out look. His face was covered in scruffy stubble, and he wore clothes that had long faded and frayed. His shoes, so battered and worn, exposed his toes each time he took a step, revealing the wear of countless miles walked on unforgiving streets. His thin coat, barely holding together, did nothing to block the night's cold and dampness from reaching his skin. That man was Josh, a homeless man with deep, contemplative eyes that seemed to hold entire stories. His gaze contained something far more profound than his worn-out appearance, as though his life held secrets that a mere glance could never uncover. Once life was kinder to Josh. Before hardship came his way, he had been a brilliant biologist. He was born into a modest, middle-class family where his mother was a teacher, and his father worked as a mechanic. From an early age, Josh had an insatiable curiosity and a love for science. His interests were not just limited to biology, but extended into the world of cooking. Fascinated by the intricate details of the natural world and how ingredients combine to create flavors, Josh pursued his passions with enthusiasm. He was drawn to the invisible world of microorganisms and chemical reactions, where every molecule, every cell, played an essential role in creating the taste and quality of food. To Josh, cooking was not just an art form. It was a science that revealed the elegance of nature itself. Each ingredient brought its own unique properties, and in the hands of a skilled chef, these ingredients could be transformed, balanced, and elevated to create something exceptional. Josh believed that understanding the biological composition of food gave him a deeper appreciation for the culinary arts. He saw cooking as a harmonious blend of nature and knowledge, where the mysteries of biology unfolded on the plate. Josh spent years working in research, dedicating himself to the study of how different compounds interacted, how flavors evolved, and how food could nourish not only the body but also the soul. He dreamed of one day opening a restaurant that would fuse his knowledge of science with his passion for cooking, a place where every meal would be an experience of both taste and discovery. However, life had different plans. A series of unfortunate events turned his life upside down. First, the research institute where he worked faced a financial crisis and shut down, leaving him unemployed. Shortly after, his mother fell seriously ill, and every penny he had saved went into her medical care. Despite his efforts, she passed away, leaving him with a profound sense of loss. His father, unable to cope, distanced himself, and the family that Josh had once known felt like it was slipping away. When he was unable to pay his bills, Josh lost his home and found himself on the streets, alone and with nothing left. The dream of his own restaurant, his ambitions, and his passion for science seemed to vanish overnight. He became just another face in the crowd, a man with no shelter and no one to lean on. Yet, even in these dire circumstances, Josh never lost his innate curiosity and his love for science. He spent his days observing the world around him, still noticing details that most would overlook. He noticed the way flavors changed with temperature, the subtle differences in scents depending on the season. Though his life had taken a dark turn, he clung to these small observations, as they reminded him of the person he once was, a man who saw beauty in knowledge and meaning in understanding. And then, On that rainy night, as Josh stood outside the upscale restaurant, shivering under the awning, he noticed something strange through the window. His keen eyes, trained by years of scientific observation, spotted a detail in the dish being served inside. It was an exquisite dish, carefully plated and adorned with a rare ingredient, a type of mushroom. But Josh recognized this mushroom. It was a species that required meticulous preparation to be safe, and one that could turn deadly if mishandled. In that moment, Josh felt a pang of worry. A lifetime of knowledge came rushing back to him, along with the instinct to protect. He knew that he could ignore what he saw and walk away, but he also knew that he would never forgive himself if he left someone in danger. Josh once held a stable job at a research institute, where he contributed significantly to studies on food safety and nutrition. Those days were the pinnacle of his life. He spent countless hours in the lab, working side by side with colleagues who shared his passion for science. His joy didn't come from financial rewards, but from the thrill of discovering something new and uncovering creative ways to combine ingredients that no one had ever considered. Yet, life does not always go as planned. An unexpected event shattered everything Josh once held dear. First came the job loss. The research institute he worked for faced financial difficulties and had to downsize its staff. Josh, despite his skill and dedication, couldn't escape the layoff. At that point, he had invested so much time and effort into his work that he didn't have a backup plan. Losing his job meant he lost not only his financial support, but also his sense of purpose. But that was only the beginning of a series of misfortunes. Shortly after losing his job, his mother, who had always supported him unconditionally, fell gravely ill. Every penny he had saved went toward her medical treatment. But despite his efforts, she passed away. Her death left an enormous void in Josh's heart, plunging him into a state of depression. He shut himself off from the world, unable to find the will to move forward. Just as he tried to recover from the emotional shock, another devastating blow struck him. He lost his apartment due to unpaid bills, as he was no longer financially stable. With nowhere else to go, no family left, and no one to turn to, Josh found himself homeless. From a promising researcher, he was pulled into a whirlwind of misfortune, loss, and countless nights wandering the streets with no place to call home. And yet, deep down, Josh's passion for science and the culinary arts never faded. He would spend hours reflecting on the formulas and chemical reactions he had once been so passionate about, even though his current life had been reduced to nothing but a few ragged clothes and a small, worn-out backpack. Sometimes, as he wandered past luxury restaurants, Josh would reminisce about the dishes he had helped develop or the quality control processes he had advised on. He could almost taste the flavors he once meticulously crafted, savoring them in his imagination as a small comfort in an otherwise harsh existence. Despite the bitterness and hardship of his present reality, Josh clung to these memories. They were the remnants of a life that once had direction and meaning. He hadn't completely let go of his dream, even though it seemed impossible. At times, he imagined what it would be like to go back to a lab, to work on new ideas, or to sit with fellow scientists over a meal and talk about their latest findings. Though he had no clear path back, he couldn't help but hope, deep in his heart, for a day when he might return to his true calling. Josh's struggles became a constant, internal battle. On one hand, he fought the despair that came from being abandoned by the life he had known. On the other, he held tightly to his knowledge, like a flickering flame in the darkness. He could identify flavors and scents with precision, recall chemical structures with ease, and recognize the balance between ingredients that most people would overlook. This knowledge was all he had left, yet it was also a source of strength and a reminder of his potential. One evening, as Josh stood in the rain, shivering in the cold outside, yet another upscale restaurant, he caught sight of an elegant, rare dish through the restaurant's glass window. His mind automatically analyzed its composition, noting each ingredient, its potential combinations, and the preparation techniques likely used. It was then that he noticed something odd, a rare type of mushroom that he knew well, one that required meticulous handling to be safe. He knew that if it were not prepared with extreme care, it could produce a deadly toxin. In that moment, The instincts of the scientist within him awoke. Even in his difficult circumstances, his passion for safety and his commitment to his knowledge surged forward. He knew he could walk away, but something inside him compelled him to take action. This was the very knowledge he had honed for years, and if it could prevent harm, then he would not hesitate. In a way, this moment was a reminder to Josh that even though he had lost everything, his purpose had not vanished. That purpose, the drive to protect and improve, was part of who he was and would remain with him no matter what life threw his way. Tonight, as Josh stood outside this luxurious restaurant, he couldn't escape a feeling of sadness. It wasn't envy, but rather a deep regret for the bright future that had once been within his reach, but had slipped away. The rain continued to pour, and the wind grew stronger, as if trying to wash away every memory and dream Josh had once cherished. The night's chill seemed to mirror the hollow ache in his heart, a quiet reminder of the life he had lost. While he was lost in thought, a sleek, expensive car pulled up in front of the restaurant. It was a vehicle polished to perfection, with elegant lines and pristine details, a symbol of luxury that Josh had once seen up close in the world of the wealthy. The car door opened, and a tall, commanding man stepped out. Dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, his face carried the confidence and authority of someone who had achieved everything he ever wanted. Josh looked at this man, Gordon, with a quiet curiosity. He had read about Gordon in news articles, stories about his immense wealth, his influence, and the extravagant parties he hosted. But even as he looked upon Gordon now, Josh felt no resentment or jealousy. To him, Gordon was merely a symbol of a world he could never touch, a world he once believed he might belong to, but no longer felt the desire to pursue. Gordon's world was foreign and distant, a world of grand mansions, lavish parties, and a seemingly complete life. But Josh knew all too well that this was only the surface. In such a world, there was no place for imperfection or weakness. It was a place that had rejected him, casting him aside like a speck of invisible dust. Josh's gaze lingered on Gordon, pondering the contrast between them. Here was a man who appeared to have every resource, every advantage, and every comfort, while Josh himself had been stripped of everything, left to confront life's harsh realities alone. Yet, despite the difference in their circumstances, Josh couldn't help but feel that Gordon, too, might be carrying a burden hidden from the world. After all, no one reaches such heights without paying a price. Josh knew that, even if given the chance, he might not want to return to that world. He had seen too much of its emptiness and pretense. The life of opulence was alluring, but he understood that real fulfillment wasn't guaranteed by wealth. Standing outside in the rain, Josh accepted that perhaps his own journey, however painful, had brought him closer to truths that no luxury could reveal. Josh turned away, intending to find a quieter place to seek shelter. But as he glanced through the restaurant's glass window, he suddenly stopped. With the trained eye of someone who had once worked in biology and had a deep understanding of various ingredients, he noticed something unusual about the dish Gordon was about to eat. It was a refined and luxurious meal, crafted from rare and intricate ingredients. Yet, Josh spotted a particular type of mushroom in the dish, one he knew well, that was only safe if prepared correctly, as even the slightest error could transform it into a deadly toxin. Josh's mind quickly assessed the situation, relying on his experience. He had worked with many plants, mushrooms, and microorganisms, all of which could become harmful if not handled precisely. The mushroom he saw, with its glossy, appealing exterior, could easily cause severe poisoning if it wasn't cooked at the proper temperature and for the right amount of time. And for some reason, Josh sensed a suspicious carelessness in this dish. Perhaps someone had made a mistake, or worse yet, it might be part of a malicious plan. A powerful intuition rose within him, filling him with unease. He knew he had no right or clear reason to interfere, but the thought that someone might be in danger made it impossible for him to simply walk away. His rational mind urged him to ignore it, reminding him that bursting into a restaurant to warn a billionaire wasn't the wisest choice. But deep down, Josh knew that if he did nothing, he would regret it forever. He looked at Gordon's face through the thick glass, noticing how relaxed and joyful he seemed as he sat by the plate of food. Josh thought about the cost of silence. If Gordon were poisoned by this meal, it would be because Josh didn't have the courage to speak up. After a moment of hesitation, Josh took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and strode quickly into the restaurant. The staff at the entrance greeted him with skeptical looks, barely hiding their shock at seeing a bedraggled, homeless man entering such an upscale establishment. But before they could stop him, Josh spoke urgently.
"Excuse me, I need to see Mr. Gordon immediately. It's a matter of life and death concerning his safety."
Suspicious glances and doubtful murmurs arose around him, but Josh stood his ground. He felt he had to do this, not for himself, but to save a life. People around looked at him as if he were a madman, but to Josh, that no longer mattered. He had already lost everything, but if he could save someone from harm, he would at least feel he had done something meaningful. A security guard approached, ready to ask Josh to leave, but Josh's determined voice stopped him.
"I used to be a biological researcher."
Josh stated firmly, his eyes showing sincerity.
"And I realize that the dish Mr. Gordon is about to eat may contain toxins if it hasn't been prepared correctly. Please, let me speak to him for just a moment. I don't mean to cause trouble, I simply want to warn him to keep him safe."
Josh's words created a ripple of confusion in the restaurant. A few people glanced at him skeptically, assuming he might be some sort of con artist. Yet Josh ignored their doubtful stares, fixing his gaze on Gordon's table with the hope that someone would inform the man of his presence and take his warning seriously. Fortunately, a restaurant manager, noticing Josh's persistence, decided to inform Gordon of the situation. At first, Gordon appeared uninterested, but when the manager explained that the homeless man was trying to warn him about the dish he was about to eat, Gordon raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering in his eyes. He decided to meet with Josh, partly out of intrigue, and partly because he didn't want to disregard any information, no matter how far-fetched it might seem, when it involved his safety. As he was escorted to Gordon's table, Josh felt a mix of nerves and determination. This was his only chance to explain and convince Gordon. Standing face-to-face with the billionaire, he spoke with urgency in his voice.
"Mr. Gordon, please hear me out. I was once a biological researcher, and I have a deep understanding of certain types of mushrooms and their effects on health. The dish in front of you contains a specific mushroom that is only safe if prepared with extreme precision. If there was an error in the cooking process, it could turn into a deadly toxin."
Gordon studied Josh intently, his face expressionless, yet something in Josh's eyes caught his attention. There was an honesty and a level of expertise in Josh's words that Gordon couldn't ignore. Without further hesitation, Gordon called over one of his assistants and instructed them to recheck the dish thoroughly. Josh's heart raced as he watched Gordon's assistant carefully examine the dish. Despite the doubts from those around him, Josh knew that he had done the right thing. The inspection process took place under the supervision of the restaurant's experts, and soon after, a shocking discovery was made. The dish indeed contained traces of a deadly toxin. It turned out that the chef had made an error in the preparation process, causing the rare mushroom to become a dangerous poison. This mistake could have led to severe consequences and possibly death if it hadn't been detected in time. Gordon said nothing, but he looked at Josh with a mixture of astonishment and gratitude. He realized that this ragged homeless man had just saved his life. Not only had Josh protected him from harm, but he had also prevented a potential scandal that could have devastated the restaurant's reputation. Once everything had been taken care of, Gordon approached Josh, his expression serious but his gaze holding a newfound respect.
"What's your name?"
"Josh,"
he replied, bowing his head slightly, feeling somewhat shy under the sudden attention.
"Josh, I'm deeply grateful to you for saving my life. Without you, I might not be standing here right now."
Gordon paused for a moment before continuing.
"Would you like a job? Someone with your expertise and courage deserves a much better opportunity."
Josh looked at him, stunned and speechless. He had never imagined that this encounter would lead to such an offer. Life had taken him through many twists and turns, and he had never dared to dream that he would have the chance to change his fate once again. in the tense atmosphere of the restaurant. As everyone processed the close call they had just witnessed, Josh's courage was admired by all. Here was a homeless man who, disregarding his own position and the risk of rejection, had boldly stepped forward to save a stranger's life. Staff members exchanged nervous glances, and the chefs couldn't believe their ears. A dish served in such a prestigious establishment had nearly been the instrument of a fatal accident. Josh's bravery, however, left an even stronger impression on everyone present, reminding them of the human values that often go unappreciated. The restaurant staff quickly spread the story among themselves, and the tale of the homeless hero who had saved a billionaire soon became a legend within the establishment. Gordon was stunned, not only by the horrifying discovery, but also by Josh's courage and quick thinking. This homeless man had saved his life, even though they shared no connection whatsoever. Gordon couldn't help but feel grateful, and he began to ponder the remarkable character of this man. However, he quickly realized that this incident was not a simple mistake. Someone had deliberately planned to harm him, a scheme hidden with careful precision. Gordon immediately requested an investigation to uncover the true mastermind behind the incident. The investigation lasted for several days, involving both the police and private investigators. With leads provided by Josh and biologists Gordon had hired, they discovered that the restaurant chef had been forced into participating in the assassination attempt. Initially, the chef adamantly denied any involvement, but under the weight of the evidence, he finally confessed that someone had threatened his family's lives if he didn't comply with the instructions. The most shocking revelation, however, was the identity of the mastermind. Not an outside business rival as Gordon had assumed, but his own son, Ethan. Hearing this name, Gordon felt as if he had plunged into a nightmare. Ethan, his only son, the heir to the immense fortune and the company that Gordon had spent his life building, was the one who had orchestrated this plan to kill him. For Gordon, this revelation was a blow far greater than any he had ever faced. He couldn't understand how Ethan could be so ruthless toward his own father, the man who had dedicated his entire life to creating a bright future for him. Josh looked at Gordon with a sympathetic gaze. He hadn't only saved this man's life, he now felt compelled to help him through the greatest challenge of his life. Knowing that this was not the time for Gordon to break down, Josh offered to help him gather evidence to bring Ethan to justice. Gordon hesitated at first, but then he realized that Josh was the only person he could trust at this moment. They embarked on a journey to gather evidence, tracing every minute detail of the assassination plan. With his scientific knowledge and keen insights, Josh helped Gordon understand the toxin that had been used. They discovered that Ethan had contacted a supplier of rare chemicals, a crucial piece of evidence that pointed to Ethan as the mastermind. Through secret and arduous investigations, Josh and Gordon gradually uncovered Ethan's motives. In addition to wanting to take control of his father's immense wealth, Ethan aimed to claim his father's entire life insurance payout. It was a sophisticated and ruthless plan, carefully crafted by Ethan to cover his tracks, confident that no one would ever find out. But he hadn't counted on someone like Josh, a stranger with enough sharpness to expose the truth. The pieces of evidence began to fall into place, from anonymous calls to the chef to financial documents linked to Gordon's insurance policies that Ethan had secretly filed. Gordon could hardly believe his eyes as each piece of evidence revealed his son's ruthless intentions. Though he had always been tough and wise in business, he couldn't contain the deep sorrow he felt upon realizing that his son was willing to kill him to satisfy his own selfish ambition. After many days of gathering evidence, Gordon decided to confront Ethan directly. Josh stood by his side like a loyal friend, ready to support him through the hardest confrontation of his life. Gordon was no longer the cold, authoritative billionaire seen by the outside world. At this moment, he was simply a father, burdened with immense pain as he faced his son's betrayal. In Gordon's mind, memories of Ethan as a child came flooding back like a wave. He remembered the first time he held his son in his arms, the years when Ethan was little, the first time he called him Dad, and the moments he watched Ethan play in the small garden behind their house. In those moments, Gordon had dreamed of a bright future for his son, one in which he could pass down his life's work and legacy to Ethan. But he never imagined that the son he had loved so deeply would betray him so ruthlessly. Gordon met Ethan at the family estate, where his son had no idea that all his plans had been exposed. Facing his father's disappointed and angry gaze, Ethan was initially taken aback. But as Gordon presented the undeniable evidence, Ethan's expression shifted from confusion to anger, and finally to despair.
Why, Ethan? I dedicated my entire life to building all of this for you, for your future. Why would you want to kill me?
Gordon asked, his voice trembling, not only from anger, but from the deep hurt constricting his heart. Ethan, standing across from his father, no longer hid his true feelings. His face changed, his gaze grew cold, and his expression took on a challenging, even contemptuous look. You built all of this for me, Ethan replied with an icy tone. But I don't want to live in your shadow. I want control, to prove that I can do better than you. And the only way to accomplish that is to eliminate you. Ethan's confession was like a knife plunged into Gordon's heart. Those words weren't just a betrayal. They were a denial of all the love and sacrifice Gordon had given to his son. Josh stood by, unable to hide his disgust at Ethan's admission. To him, family was the most precious thing, and the fact that Ethan was willing to betray his father for personal ambition was incomprehensible. Josh had experienced the emptiness of losing his family, losing loved ones, and he understood the deep void left by the absence of a parent. But Ethan didn't seem to understand this. He was blindly driven by power and ambition. Gordon struggled to stay calm, looking at his son with an expression of profound pain and disappointment. He could never have imagined that his love and sacrifice would lead to such a tragedy. Yet, he knew he couldn't allow this cruelty to continue. With sufficient evidence in hand, Gordon and Josh contacted the authorities. The case was brought to light, and Ethan faced the punishment he deserved. The truth left the public in shock. People were stunned by the tragic story of a wealthy family, of greed and betrayal. The media extensively covered the incident, and Ethan became infamous as the man who was willing to harm his own father for insatiable greed. Though it was painful, Gordon knew he had to do the right thing, not only to protect his reputation and assets, but to show that justice is unbreakable, even when it involves a family member. He understood that bringing Ethan's actions to light was also a way to deter others, so that no one else would have to endure a tragedy like his own. Throughout this ordeal, Josh was not only a companion, but also a source of emotional strength for Gordon. From a stranger, he had become a trusted friend, helping Gordon through one of the most challenging periods of his life. In moments when Gordon felt weary and defeated, it was Josh who stood by him, encouraging him and reminding him that he could rebuild his life. Every time Gordon looked at Josh, he saw in him qualities he had long forgotten amidst his life of luxury: unwavering loyalty, unconditional kindness, and resilient determination. For Josh, his quiet support for Gordon was not only a way to help his friend, but also a way to rediscover himself. He had once lived through dark days, nearly losing faith in life. But through helping Gordon, he realized he was more than just a homeless man or someone who had suffered misfortune. Josh was someone with value, someone who could bring hope and aid to others in their times of need. After the incident, Gordon offered Josh a formal position in his corporation, not just out of gratitude, but because he recognized Josh's genuine talent. However, for Josh, what mattered most was that he had found a new family, a place where he belonged. Starting from a humble position in the research department, Josh gradually proved his abilities. His extensive knowledge of biology and his wealth of research experience made him an indispensable part of the team, specializing in food safety and cutting-edge biotechnologies. As the years passed, Josh became not only an employee, but also a friend and mentor whom Gordon could trust. Josh contributed to numerous major projects within the corporation, enhancing the reputation and quality of the products and even elevating Gordon's brand to new heights. Thanks to his dedication, talent, and humility, Josh quickly earned the respect and admiration of everyone in the company. Gordon witnessed Josh's growth every step of the way, from a homeless man who had saved his life to a respected researcher and a close friend. After 5 years of dedicated service, Josh was officially promoted by Gordon to the position of senior researcher within the corporation with a 6-figure salary, an amount Josh had never even dared to imagine. This position was not only a reward for his contributions, but also a testament to Gordon and the corporation's acknowledgement of Josh's relentless efforts. With a stable and generous income, Josh no longer had to worry about the precariousness of life, and he could now live comfortably and contribute more to the community without being concerned about basic needs like food and shelter, as he had in the past. With this newfound financial security, Josh decided to start helping homeless individuals and others facing hardships, those he had once shared the streets with. He began volunteering with charitable organizations, supporting shelters, and frequently organizing talks to share his experiences of overcoming difficulties with others who had faced similar challenges. Josh deeply understood the pain of those abandoned by society, and he wanted to use his success to help them find a path to stand up again, just as he had once been given a second chance. Every time Josh stood in the company's research lab, he could clearly feel the value of everything he had endured. The long nights spent sleeping outdoors, the hardships he had faced, and the journey of saving Gordon all seemed to have shaped him into the person he was today. Strong, compassionate, and unbreakable. Josh understood that if he hadn't shown kindness and courage in that fateful moment, his life might still be adrift in the dark streets. But now, he hadn't just transformed his own life. He was also bringing hope and faith to those around him. For Gordon, the losses he suffered in the past were immeasurable, but he had learned a profound lesson, that not everyone is worthy of trust, even family. At the same time, he realized that sometimes strangers can become trusted companions, restoring the faith in life that he thought he had lost forever. In Gordon's heart, Josh was not only the one who had saved his life, but also the one who reignited his belief in loyalty and sincerity, qualities he had assumed no longer existed in a world filled with deception. Josh and Gordon often reminisced together about the story as a reminder of kindness and courage. It was more than a battle against wrongdoing. It was a testament to the values of humanity, trust, and compassion. Josh's unwavering kindness and resilience had not only changed his own life, but also transformed Gordon's. Gordon, who once saw himself as invulnerable, had been deeply wounded by his own family. But thanks to Josh, he regained trust in loyalty and humanity, qualities he once believed were absent from his world. Each day, Gordon and Josh continued to walk side by side, not just in their work but in life. They were no longer merely employer and employee. They had become friends and partners who shared a deep belief in the values of loyalty, friendship, and sincerity. They often had dinner together, sharing life stories and valuable lessons that each had gathered over the years. In their free time, they joined charitable activities, helping those less fortunate in society. They found joy in supporting those in need, knowing they were contributing to positive change in their community. Their story was not simply one of success or fame. It was a story of recovery, compassion, and the ability to overcome adversity to become better versions of themselves. Each challenge brought them closer, and each trial made them value life even more. Together, they became an inspiration for those around them, not only through their careers but also through their kindness and humility. These values became the foundation of everything they built, turning their story into a living testament to the power of human connection and determination. What a wonderful story filled with valuable lessons of humanity. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons